Hey y'all, it's Tim, Chusky Hillbilly from Second Wind Farmstead. How y'all doing? Today we're going to start on a couple of new rabbit hutches. If you've seen previous episodes, we're expanding out, doing some different things. We have several that should be getting ready to kindle here, in a few days, and we're running tight on space. So I'm going to go ahead and start on a hutch design that my wife has been discussing with me that she wants for inside the ground rabbitry when we get to that stage, which hopefully is coming in the very near future. So I'm gonna go ahead. I've got a picture in my head of what I want. I'll try to get you to come along with me and see if we can't get there together, and I'll show you step by steps. Probably be more of a after each step kind of video than a here's what I'm doing while I'm doing it kind of thing, just for time and for ease of working and filming. So stay tuned and let's see if we can't build some rabbit hutches. So first things first, what we've decided to do, I've got these 2x3s that we purchased for a project over at Mom's, and we had them left over, so instead of returning them I decided to use them for hutches. So based on the commercial cages we bought and suspended last time, they're 24 inches by 24 inches for breeding. So I'm going to do something very similar here. We've cut the long pieces to 6 foot 5 inches, which gives me 2.5 inches on either end to support off with the side walls when we put them up. And these pieces here in the middle are 19 inches long, so when we stand everything up together we should get 24 inches across, and that will be our base. And I'll show you what that looks like as soon as we get it put together. So the floor joist for our hutch is laid out. We did 6 foot 5 inches long, 19-inch centers, which gives us 24 inches inside to inside of actual wire coverage on each of the outsides. It's 24 from center to center in the middle, but that left us a little bit to hang over and enabled us to make three hutches. We will divide our walls here and here. The depth of it's right at 22 inches outside to outside, which would be more than enough. All right, we got our hutches floor joist and assembly done, and we've got it lined with hardware cloth, aka rabbit wire, which is what we grew up calling it. And this little extra piece here, I've got plans for that, which is why I have not cut it off, and I'll show you that little trick in just a little bit. I almost forgot I was filming. So when last we left, we had made the sides, had them assembled and the wire put on along with the base. So since then what we have done is we cut a set of support legs, marked them off at 42 inches high for the base of the pin here to be right at 42 inches. We've found that's a pretty good height for us to be working with. Puts everything right here where you want it. And then of course we got some braces. We did make the legs a little bit longer to extend on the tops, so that when we mounted the side walls, not only did we screw to the base here, but we also mounted them to the legs for extra support, so that everything's all good and tight, nothing's going anywhere. And next step will be for me to figure out in my head how I want to do the next step, because per my nature I am building this with absolutely no plan, just a general idea in my head of what I want. And as soon as I figure it out, we'll pick the camera back up and we'll show you what we come up with. All right, so step 2, I'm starting to get a picture. My predicament here was that this is going to be 3 bays. One here, and one here. And what I'm trying to do in my head, if you'll look, there'll be a little bit of exposed wood, mostly because making it completely non-exposed was a little bit of an afterthought after I did this. But the bottom is going to be completely undone. This is going to have a wire facing of some sort. I still haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do with that. But for the majority of it, it's going to be very difficult for them to gnaw. Well, the problem was to do those squares in here to make the dividers. There was going to be a lot of wood exposed in the partitions. And I didn't want them doing that, because in the partitions we've got that are exposed now, they are chewing their way through it to get to each other. So, I don't know if you can see this. It's going to be kind of difficult. What we did was we took it, I cut it 24 by 24, and I kind of split the difference a little bit, so we got a little bit of an overhang here, and I've got overlap here. So what we did is laid it down flat, several staples along here in the bottom to hold it in on the clean cut side, so there's nothing to catch on the rabbets. And then we laid that board to give us a nice hard edge, screwed it down into place, bent this up, tamped it square with a hammer so that it would stand up on its own, removed that, replaced it over here, and repeated the process. So now we have two solid wire dividers. So next step, what I think I'm going to do, if the sun doesn't get in the camera too bad here, along the back I'm going to cut a solid piece of rabbit wire the full length, and 24 inches should get me down to the bottom here. And then all I have to do is come to the outside with some wood struts and build the frame after the wire's in place. Then we can go in from the inside, take these panels, bend them at a 90-degree up against the wood post that I put in for the supports, tag them in good, and do something very similar to the front that allows for doors. You know me, we'll figure it out when we get there. I'll be right back. As you can see right now, the two partitions are still hanging loose. We have cut and strung a full piece of rabbit wire, aka hardware cloth, all the way down the back, and it's got a little bit of give because I'm sure this thing isn't 100% perfectly square because it's a rabbit hutch and I am not pulling squares near like I probably should. But it's going to be self-correcting. When I cut my next piece to lock it in, it will be along the bottom and will come to a predetermined spot, i.e. just to the outside of this. And the top one's going to be the same length. So we will pull it and maneuver it into place. And then we will come in from the outside and do these two here. And again, this is all done after work, a little bit at a time. So with that being said, we'll plan to get out here tomorrow evening and finish this up. I believe this will be the last hutch that I build with the wood and the hardware cloth, unless I have a customer specifically request that type of build. Moving forward, you will see wood again in stands and shelter type frames, hutch boxes, but the actual pins from here on out, I will be doing nothing but probably a 1/2 inch by 1 inch rabbit gauge, actual caging. Very similar, if not the same stuff that the hanging cages on the other video are made out of. I've got the tools and I have been playing around and learn how to use those. I think it's going to work better for us moving forward. It's not going to require as much wood. Definitely is not going to require the staples. It's going to be a lot stronger. And depending on how we utilize them, if we need them on free stands, then we will just build something similar to that is designed to fit the particular cage, and then we'll just set the cage in it instead of having to do all the wiring to it. So I think this one's going to look really good, and I'm kind of happy with it so far. I think it's going to do well. I can't wait to see how it turns out, because honestly, just like you don't know what it's going to look like right now, neither do I. So we'll figure it out together, and we'll be back. We now have the backup. I'll walk around in a second and show you the frame part, but this is where I went and got some scrap wood off the old pile. But you can see what we've done once we got the frame attached from the outside. So the wire is still to the inside of all this wood. I'll walk around the back, but it is attached to the bottom and again through the top here. And we can see the series of staples along this bend. So I've bent this to a 90, just like we did to the bottom. Stapled it in, take them in with a hammer. And in case y'all haven't mentioned, what we're using is just a standard staple gun and a 1/2 inch T50 staples. That's all I'm doing here. Some of the wood's harder. The gun's not, you know, commercial grade by any means. It's not powered. So sometimes they don't kick in right and you get a little squirrely mess like that. I hammer them in. That particular one actually will come right out. So, but on the back here, I had some old deck spindles that came off the front porch that we wrecked, and I just cut the bad ends off. Came in 3 inch from the top, from the bottom, squared them up, and as promised, I measured 76 inches, the length of the bottom. It wasn't squaring up perfectly, so I loosened that, allowed me to kind of do a little pry lever here and pull it in tight, square it up on each end. So we're now squared. I'll get that tacked in. I think we'll call it a day today. My wife is inside cooking a cabbage-based lasagna type dish. I don't know what it's called. I know it's delicious, and I haven't eaten today, so yeah, definitely this time. Picking up some tools, and we shall knock this out tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have it done. See ya. Good morning. We are back. We are back. Y'all probably didn't notice because it was like a 1/2 second fade, but it's another day. So get you caught up a little bit. What we have done this morning, we installed the top rail, which is piece of wood I found out on a pile. So it's a little bit warped, but it's all right. Bunnies don't care. And once we got that in place, I added a couple pieces of trim just to dress it out. And we have not attached them at the bottom. I will square them up around the doors. And then of course, a couple of those spindles like we used on the back. And then from there, I don't know if you can see, we'll see. Anyway, I took the remainder of the partitions here, and we have stapled them up and down the full length. I'll give you a shot of the back again just to remind you, because it's been probably like 45 seconds to a minute for you guys. And that's what we got. So a little bit of flex, but no problem. It's only got to be functional. So in keeping with our frugal mindset as we do this, I will catch you up on my materials here. I mentioned yesterday, or I mentioned earlier in the video, the staples are just 1/2 inch basic staples. They're not terribly expensive at all. Like everything else, they're starting to climb considerably, but they're still not what I would consider expensive. The 2x4s are from the scrap demo project last summer. The 2x3s are leftovers from the coop build that I just absorbed the cost on. They run roughly $4 a piece, and I think I've got 5 involved in it so far. So we're at $20 in wood that I've purchased. Screws, I still buy them in bulk, so I don't know how to price those out. They're not horrible. And the hardware cloth you're seeing here is a roll I found left over from back before we even moved. So it was probably in the $20 range back then for a 50-foot roll. I think it's closer to 45 to 50 now in the 24 by 50. So not a whole lot of money involved in this hutch for my build. Like I said, I'm using some scrap wood, and it's not quite professional, but it's probably as good as any I've built lately. And the roof will be the white, here it is down here, the white corrugated plastic roofing. If you remember my last pig hut build for the expansion on the Coonies, that was a windfall find of mine. We were able to use it on the hut. I thought I had 3 pieces left. I have 2. So we're going to kind of, I don't know, this might get a cute little A-frame. Who knows? We'll figure it out. But I've only got 2 sheets to work with, not 3. So we'll work on that when I get there. Right now, I'm working on figuring out a door system. I think what I'm going to do is just frame a rectangle for each of these openings. Cover it with wire on the back. We're going to leave the lip here so that if there are smaller bunnies or anything in there when we open the door, since the whole front of the cage is going to open, they at least got to crawl over it before they can fall out. They're not just going to get to the edge and fall, none of them. And give us something to help them keep from pushing water bowls and whatever else out. So we'll see how this goes. And I'll get you some more video shots in a little bit, and you can keep progressing with us as we continue to progress on this project. Well, the door frame is created for the far right bin. And you can see basically what I did was just create a rectangle, picture frame type. We came in from the top with a long 3-inch screw that is superset to about this deep. And then on the insides, I drilled at an angle and set, ooh, my shadow's in the way, and set a 3-inch framing screw in at an angle to lock them in good and tight. So that's pretty good. A trick when using this wood, old wood especially, find a good flat surface. In my case, this table saw is going to work fine, to make sure it's not all kinds of, to use an old word, cattywampus. That's mine. That's old. I'm old. So yeah, cattywampus. It is not cattywampus. So I've done good so far. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to cut the hardware cloth to cover almost every bit of it, as much as possible. And that way the wood will be protected from chewing from the inside. And then we'll find some old cabinet hardware and screw it into place. And then we'll replicate that, hopefully, with some variations in measurements for the next 2. All right, so door number 1. I can't hold this and the camera all at the same time, but anyway, it is ready. Wires just stapled in on the top. Covers almost all of it. A little bit bitey proof. Good and sturdy. We'll be able to mount the water bottle directly to the door, closest to the hinges for weight distribution. Actually, I'm considering a tray system on the back. We may go that route. Again, I have no plans. I just have thoughts and wishes. So we'll see if we can't figure something out and make this work. So yeah, door number 1. Door number 2 is over there in pieces, just waiting for me to put it together. Yep, that's it. One, a 2, a 3. Finished the second door. Well, we finally have all 3 doors built and installed. We used some recycled cabinet hinges from the demo of the original inside of our home, and I've been hanging on them for a while. They come in handy. Same thing with the knobs. And for latches, what we have here are the fencing ties that you buy for the T-post, and I just took it and bent it with the needle nose pliers so that it forms a little bit of a tight spring-like latch. It goes right over the cabinet knobs there, so that's gonna work pretty good. I am quite pleased. So you can even hear it snap shut. Look at that. I don't know how long they'll last, if they're going to be easy to stretch. We'll find out. If they are, we'll do something with heavier, but I think they're going to be great, no more than what pressure is on them. So now next stop will be, after lunch break, we'll figure out what kind of roof to put on this thing, and we'll call her done. All right, so with the doors and the frame and everything completely built, the only thing lacking is the roof here. So as I mentioned earlier, I've only got 2 sheets of the plastic corrugated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pitch this thing from the center long ways out to either side, left and right. And to do that, we've taken a 72-inch, aka 6-foot board, cut it in half, 36 inches. And with the rip saw here, we've gone diagonal quarter to quarter, which will give us 4 pieces of angled wood to mount on the top. They will go face to face like this, and put a couple of trusses across them, and that's going to be our A-frame. Easy peasy, right? We'll see. It actually worked. And while we're at it, throw a couple of 2x4s across the top in midway to give something to attach the roof to. And while we're up here, we discovered that the top part of our partitions were just flopping free, so I threw another piece of spindle up there just to tack a few clips into. The next step, I'll throw a couple of pieces of plastic on it, put some cups or bowls or something in there for food and water, and move some rabbits. And so we've been making our own rabbit feeders and waterers out of metal coffee cans. Turns out if you buy the cheap ones instead of the high dollar stuff, you actually still get some metal. I'll have a video linked right here for how to do that. But other than putting this into place, I do believe we are done. My last thoughts before we close this video out. Now that we've got the larger hutches, we were able to move the little guys to the big pens, and when the next bunch, that is at 4 weeks now, hits 6 weeks, we'll integrate them in here as well. And freeing their pen up, we were able to move one of the younger girls so we can get her into the stables for breeding now. And our final build, now we've got this hutch set over here, looking pretty good and occupied. Another one of our trio, she's now ready. Little Cheeks here, that's Marilyn's daughter's been living with her in the big cage where the little bunnies are now. And of course Mama Marilyn, we were able to move her and her nesting box, which she has started to work on over the last day or two. Hopefully we didn't confuse her too much. She'll get right in there, and within the next day or two she'll be having us another little litter. That's all we got for the day. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, hit the notifications, like these videos, tell a friend, and we will keep doing what we're doing. Y'all be safe, and God bless.